here. I've also got Luke Akridge, another web developer, and our manager, Diana Keeling, who may chime in at times. I want to remind everyone to use chat if you have any questions and that we may be recording today. You can also raise your hand using Zoom and we'll get to you and answer any questions. So let's go ahead and start. Today, we're going to be talking about a few things. First, the Omni CMS name has changed. That happened a couple weeks ago, but we just want to talk about it real briefly. Another thing we're going to talk about today is quality control checks, something we've added. And final check, which is a feature built into publishing that we're going to start using. So first things first, you may notice that the CMS looks a little different now. It's not called OU Campus anymore. It is called Omni CMS. The company you may have heard us mention before was Omni Update, and they combined with another company, and they are now Modern Campus, whose logo we see on our login page now. They decided to rename OU Campus to Omni CMS, and when you're logged in, you'll notice the icon here, the logo in the header bar has changed to reflect that. We may also see some other minor changes like colors, borders, or backgrounds, just real minor facelift things, but this has no impact on the management of our sites, the templates, our pages. Nothing really has changed, just the name of the CMS and the logo inside of it pretty much. So let's move on. Our first big thing we're going to be introducing today is something called quality checks. I've got a demo page here for us. And you'll notice this looks pretty crazy when you come to this page now, because we have added some alerts at the top of your pages if we detect things that we might want to coach you to fix. Things like search engine optimization, just consistency across the website, that type of thing. These messages do not show when you publish your page, so you don't have to worry about that. Let's see here. So if you publish your page and you visit it, you'll notice those alerts aren't there. So our final users are never going to see those. Those are just there for us as site managers and content managers to just learn about little things that we can improve on our page. Sue Ellen asked, do we need to review all our pages? No, we don't need to review all of your pages. Just as you go in and edit these pages, try to fix these things. If you really want to, go back and edit your pages if you have the time, but we're not going to be enforcing this. These are just there to coach you every time you go to edit a page.
Quick interjection. The quality control checks are basically just to check the quality of your page, as the name implies. It's not any bearing on the content of your page. It's just to help try to get your presence with search engines a little higher. Just some quality of life, like using the YouTube component or the embed snippets instead of using YouTube's embed code. Just because the tools that we give you are a little bit more responsive and better suited to using within WKU's web pages. So these are just purely to help you produce better content, some suggestions for common things that we see across the board.
Yeah, perfect, exactly. So let's see, where were we? Yeah, these only show during preview and edit. If you publish, they're not there. And first one we want to touch on is that you'll see this red one. If you fix any of these errors as they kind of describe how to, they will go away. So that's kind of a bonus to fix these errors, is if you're like me, you don't want to see these things, you want to make them go away. So the first one it mentions is the meta description, some SEO content. And what it is saying here is that the description field that is in your title and metadata section of page properties is missing. And that's when you Google anything, you'll see these short descriptions afterwards. That's not always going to be your meta description. Google has a lot of variables that they take into factor when they pull those and create those for you. So it may or may not use it, but generally that is where that will display. So in this case, we don't have one. So I'm going to go into our properties, and under title and metadata, as it said, I'm going to add a good description. So just going to make one up here, which is about quality control checks to demonstrate to web counsel. Once I do that, you'll notice the message went away. Another one that we also check for is if your message is too short. So if you just try to get away with putting, anything in here and try to get away, we're still going to flag that. It detects that the description I entered was only 5 characters. We recommend at least 50. Through some research, I have found that an ideal description is about 150 to 160 because that's where Google tends to trim it. So that's about the max text you would see. You can go a little bit longer, of course, or a little bit shorter. The next one is that it has detected an image where a description is missing. And these are super important because if a non-sighted user comes to our page and it's being read to them, they don't know what's going on in that image. They just hear image. So in this case, we'll want to edit our page and add a description to this image. And that is under the dialog when you edit any image, either clicking this button or right-clicking image. It's the alternative description field. And we want to add a quick description of that image. You could say 2 guys high-fiving, but that's not super descriptive of this image. So in this case, I might say President Caboni greets a student on campus. A little bit more descriptive of what's going on here. The next one, well, first, if I save, again, of course, that message goes away. We also want to promote consistency across the site. And one of the things that we want to be consistent with is the naming of button style links that go to the apply page. The apply page, I mean, is this one. So any button style, only button style links that go to this page specifically, we really want to name those apply now. And we say that here in the message. That's just something we suggest to be consistent, everyone. It's the call to action we use so that when you see an apply now button, an incoming student sees the apply now button, they know that that's the application for WKU. So again, just real quick to fix those, you can make the message go away by changing your text and your thing to apply now. Or if you're using a button component, click it, click the edit, and then change your button text to apply now. Luke briefly touched on the YouTube message. A lot of times, the old way of embedding a YouTube video, you would come to your video, right-click, copy your embed code. We don't want to do that because you'll see what happens here is it runs way off the page and causes overflow. It also can slow down the loading of your page because one thing we've done is create some handy dandy YouTube components called the YouTube embed and the YouTube modal. So instead of embedding that way, we would like you to use the appropriate snippets component and insert your video there. You just copy the URL and paste it in there. Add your title and save. Then when you save, you'll see the proper video, which the loading is deferred of until click. So your page loads a little faster and it also fits. This also makes sure that it's responsive on smaller screens as well. And those are our quality checks. Any questions about those? Or anything I missed, guys? My crew?
I think you covered it.
Cool. Give everyone a second in case they're typing questions real quick. Okay. And the next big one, big change that we're introducing, but it's already been built in, it is called Final Check. So now, when you come to publish your page, there was always this Final Check section here, but we weren't really enforcing or using or making it run. You'll notice now it automatically runs. Spelling, links, and accessibility will automatically run for you.
One thing I want to say about this, Kirk, and you're probably going to
Mhm.
cover this a little bit as well, but the final checks, I don't want to scare anyone at the very beginning. So the final checks are not going to be mandatory starting out now. Eventually, we will make one, maybe two of them mandatory to where you have to pass all the problems in order to publish a page, but that is not the case now. So we're encouraging y'all to watch this video, see how to fix problems and get those fixed over time before it does become mandatory and you have to fix everything before you publish out a page.
Yep. Yeah, and I'll talk a little bit about more, and we can take anyone's questions about that when we get there. But yeah, this is a little daunting. It's pretty intimidating. You know, there's 3 big warning icons, and it says I have 11 spelling errors and 2 link errors. It's pretty scary, but it's really not. And we have made sure we documented everything. We have knowledge base articles on every error and how to fix them, how to use each page check, and step-by-step instructions to fix anything. So hopefully it's not as scary. Spelling, of course, is just your regular old spell check. And right now, you know, you'll see 11 errors, but there may not be a lot of errors. Gandalf isn't a typo. That's a person we know. Hilltoppers, it probably doesn't like WKU. That's okay. Just use this to look for any typos you might have missed. We all make mistakes. I can't spell fruit today, evidently. With each of these also, you can open them in a new window. And I guess you can't see that. And it'll open a small window containing there so that you can go back and forth between the two, between editing your page and seeing what you need to.
We have the ability to add words to the spell check, so we'll probably add words like hilltoppers and WKU, so those won't be false positives.
Yeah, hopefully we can suppress a lot of the more common ones. But yeah, you can fix all the spelling errors if you need to. And the next one that runs is links. This scan looks over every link on your page and tries to visit that link basically and see if it exists, see if it's working. It also checks if the link exists in staging of Omni CMS or in production and tells you about those, their status in each. So if you click that, it's going to display every link, whether it has an error or it doesn't. So don't be intimidated if your page has a ton of links and they're all okay. That's pretty good. But you'll see this link here, it checked it. If you highlight over each of the icons under staging or production, it will tell you a little more about it. So it'll tell you, hey, this link is not on staging. This link is only in production. So maybe it got deleted. Maybe you need to dig into more. Maybe contact that site manager and see if they moved that page to another location, if they have an updated version. Some more scary looking icons here. Link is broken. That's because this link is just a bunch of made up gobbledygook, for lack of a better term, that I typed in. And that link is broken, so it doesn't work. It probably needs fixed. Same thing here. We linked to Zoom, but Zoom is not on staging. It is in production. It's okay.
And just a quick distinction here with external links, staging versus production. So like his Zoom link down there, it does not mean production on WKU servers. It just means production in the terms that it is accessible by anybody on the internet.
Yes.
If it is in staging, then that means it is OU campus, Omni CMS managed content. And if it's supposed to be an Omni CMS managed content and you don't see it, that staging icon with a check mark, then that's where you might want to start reaching out to the main site contact for those sites and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
yeah, correct.
staging
For
and production didn't want people
links.
to get confused between internal Omni CMS managed links through the dependency manager and external links like the Zoom link. They're
Yeah, I
just
don't think I-
meaning staging, internal to Omni CMS, production, accessible from the world.
Correct. Yeah, I don't think I made that distinction. In each of those statuses, we have listed with their definitions on our OU Campus, formerly OU Campus website, and what each of them means versus staging and production. A little bit more info about what you can do to fix them. We also have a knowledge base article with steps on how to fix the link and what each of those means a little bit more. And that's links. And the next one is the big one. It's accessibility. And I know we talk about accessibility a lot, and seems like it's been probably 4 or 5 years since we really started working towards making the site as accessible as it can possibly be. And one of the things we're moving towards now is using this accessibility check to improve any of the content in the WYSIWYG that we possibly can. That means making the site easy for everyone to use. We often talk about faults with screen readers, but you have to take other things into account, like color blindness, motor issues, people that are just hard of sight as well. The accessibility standard we strive to meet is WCAG WCAG 2.0 level 2A standards. It's a mouthful. Those are just the standards set by the web consortium that we are trying to meet. That's what this scan is comparing your site against, and it's looking for anything that may be an error for accessibility or hinder the use of the website. So if you click on, accessibility problems are broken down into 3 different types: known, likely, and potential. You can disregard exceptions. Those are just like false positives or things that we have addressed in the templates already. And right now this page has 9 problems that are known. Known problems are pretty serious. We know the scan has detected that this definitely is something that might hinder accessibility use of our website. And these are the things we're really going to focus on fixing. I'm going to go over the super common ones during this meeting so that we all know how to fix them. Again, we have knowledge base articles on how to fix every single one of these, so we'll be able to walk you through everything. Like Diana said, these will not prevent you from publishing your page right now. We are considering in the future making it where known problems would prevent your page from publishing unless they are fixed. But that's to be determined. We want to give you all plenty of time to get comfortable with this, start using these, get familiar with the known problems and how to fix them. And also, you can take that information and we'll be able to start developing new pages that are already compliant and don't have any known problems going forward. Like I said, only known problems would be the ones that would prevent publish in the future. Okay, any questions before I go into how to fix them? Or about, preventing publish or anything like that? Because I know that's pretty intimidating. Okay.
Just as a quick reminder, if you guys aren't comfortable using the chat, just raise your hand and we will unmute you if you would like to voice your question as well.
Yeah, and we'll take questions at the end as well if you forget anything. All right. So the first problem I'm going to go over is probably the most common. We're probably going to be seeing it a lot, and that is related to header nesting. We touched on this pretty briefly in our last meeting about the order of headings and not jumping levels and keeping them consistent. This error is completely related to that. If you click the cause, it'll give you a little more information, but this is kind of scary to look at. It's a lot of tech jargon. It also includes some code. So what we've done is we've also got knowledge base articles to help you through that. and it explains why we need to fix this. Skipping headings can be confusing and cause issues navigating with assistive technology. The resolution, how to fix it, and step-by-step instructions. So while this looks a little scary and you see some code, we've got you covered. So set up an example on this page of improper heading nesting and proper heading nesting. So the idea is that our page title is a heading 1. That's the big one. That's what Google sees, you know. The next one is your section heading. And we want to jump down to the next level when we do this. We want to go down to heading level 2. We want to make sure we're using heading 2. The problem here is that we've jumped to section 4. So there's no 3. Assistive technologies struggle with that. They may confuse the user and may think they've skipped a section or missed something or ended up somewhere they shouldn't be. So to fix this, you'll notice that when I click this, we'll say under our block, this is our blocks dropdown, that this is a heading 2 and this is a heading 4, even though I've labeled them. If you're having trouble identifying what level of heading you're using, this is going to be our best friend. This is called the Show Blocks button. I think we've shown it briefly. We talked about it in migration a couple times. If you click this, that highlights what block level each row. A block is kind of a row, and those translate into HTML elements. So this one we'll see, it's real kind of light. Let me zoom in maybe. You can see each corner is kind of labeled with what block it is. So that's a heading 2. So we're able to identify what needs fixed now. And that's because we've jumped from a 2 to a 4. We just need to change that to a 3. Now you may be thinking, oh, but I wanted mine to be a little bit smaller. That's okay, you can still do that. We have the styles drop down. These don't affect the block that is being used, that the scan is checking and the scan doesn't like. These are just kind of cosmetic things you can slap onto a block to change the way they look. So while we had to change to a heading level 3, if we want them a little bit smaller or even smaller, we can make them the font size of a heading level 5. So if I highlight that, I can change to H5 and they get a little bit smaller, and that's okay. It's just a cosmetic change. Our heading levels are still 2 and 3, even though it appears to be smaller. You can also use things like semi-bold text to distinguish your levels as well if you want a little bit more of a different cosmetic appearance too. I like to make mine red sometimes and bold underneath that. So now this should comply with that heading level error that we were getting. Yeah, it looks like we went down from 9 to 8, and I don't see it here anymore. So when you're building your pages, keep that in mind. Keep heading level in order. We have some best practices on our OU campus site under headings that have some more examples and a little more information about ordering and using those styles. And they also contain some more examples as well if you're confused about how to lay out your levels of headings and subsections and sections of your site. The next one, next big known issue is related to colors. We've discussed removing the color button from the WYSIWYG. And this is because it causes things like this. If you color text with text that's too light on top of our white background, you're not going to be able to see it. And one of the compliance standards that we're trying to meet says that you need to maintain this ratio for text of small sizes and this ratio. That's a little hard to remember. You might need some fancy tools to determine what your color contrast is. But what we've done is make sure that all the colors in the style dropdown are accessible. So we encourage using those over using the WYSIWYG dropdown. And I'll demonstrate that here in a second. We have another knowledge base article on this, goes into more about why, and also we'll explain how to clear that formatting. So in this next section, you'll see, wow, that's really hard to read. Almost can't even read it. It's because I highlighted it, went in here and chose this light pale yellow. It's not ideal. So even though you can do it, we really want to discourage using things like that. You have two ways of removing the color. You can highlight it and click this clear formatting button, and that will remove italics, bold, anything applied using the styles dropdown. That just strips it back down to just basic text, and you can build your colors back up from there. If you want to just get rid of the color and leave anything else that you left, you can highlight it and click this remove color swatch. It's the same thing here. I can just highlight that, remove that color swatch. So if you do want to color text, like I mentioned in the styles dropdown, try to use these colors. We've made sure the contrast ratio is good on those. And also, if you're using these colors and maybe say they change the standard in the future and we have to comply with a more strict color contrast ratio, we can update that color globally for everyone. And we'll make sure your site is still accessible. So yeah, now we've knocked another known problem down to a few less. The next one's pretty annoying. We all like to copy and paste content, you know, maybe from our notes editor into here, or maybe Microsoft Word into our page. You know, maybe we laid out our text and we copied it in here. The problem with that is sometimes they come with some extra HTML code attached to them that we don't want. Maybe it works in that text editor and it's accessible and it's fine there, but on the web it doesn't really work. This is caused by an HTML tag difference. The old way used to be an HTML tag called I for italics and B for bold, but screen readers don't really interact with that super well. So we want to use these newer tags called emphasis and strong. When you bold and italicized text in OmniCMS, it uses those correct things. So by hitting bold, I'm making it strong. And by hitting italics, I'm adding emphasis. That means when a screen reader hits this, it's going to hit that bold text and know to read it with strength, and hit the italicized text and read it with emphasis. If it hits the old ways, it just doesn't handle them super well. So one of the compliance standards that we're trying to meet is make sure that we're using the right ones. So like I said, if you are typing this in and using the WYSIWYG, you're good. But if you copy and paste from something, you might have to fix it because it's going to detect. Get these errors back up. That the B element was used for bold, that looks like this, or that the I element was used to italicize text. And it wants you to replace those. The easiest way to do that is to highlight the identified text. And you can use, go back to our error here, sorry. You can use this source code section to find the text that is italicized that we want to fix. So I know I need to fix pasted, I need to fix accessible, I need to fix and. That's kind of annoying, but the easiest way to do it is to come in and similar to colors, you can either remove it using the WYSIWYG button that it was applied with and reapply it so that it comes back with emphasis rather than I for italics. And same thing with bold, unbold it and rebold it. I mentioned that when a screen reader hits strong text, it reads it with strength. I mean, it reads it bold, you know, like you might, doesn't yell it, but it adds a little more to it. If you don't want that, but you just want a little bit bolder of appearance, we have a semi-bold in the styles dropdown. And again, that's just cosmetic. It doesn't change anything as far as the code, the offending code goes. Same thing here. Same thing here. You can also use that clear formatting button to get rid of the bold and then reapply it. And doing that should get rid of any of those errors. You may be doing a lot of bouncing back and forth between your page and this window. Um, it's just a workflow we're going to have to get used to coming back and checking this. So it looks like we've
Okay.
knocked it down to 2. Sorry, Luke, go ahead.
Quick interjection about that. You can also, just like the spell check, pop out these accessibility problems if you want to try tackling
Yes,
them all in
perfect.
one failed swoop. It's just that it doesn't refresh as you save. You would have to rerun the scan and pop it out to make sure you got them all. But yeah.
Correct, but this will be super handy for pulling it up and going back to your page and not having to flip between the two. Or, but like Luke mentioned, yes, it's not live. You're going to have to go back and run it again after you make changes to know whether it worked or not. And the last known problem is related to tables. And we all love tables, right? They're fun, but they have a place. Sometimes you have to display some tabular style data with headings and columns, and that's okay. The problem with tables like this comes when you may have a really complex table, a table with headings here and headings here. The problem is that our WYSIWYG editor doesn't give us the tools to apply some of the code that we need to make that accessible. And what I mean by that is, to make this accessible, we would have to add some HTML code to this that says this is related to this row, and these are related to this, and this is related to that, just to tell the accessibility tools how to navigate through this, and so that they understand that when they're in big red, that is under math, but also under professor, and math is under section. So that's going to throw all these crazy errors that you'll see about data tables, because they're kind of complex. So what we recommend doing, and we have this also documented in the knowledge base, is just using something different instead of tables in this case. And that doesn't mean you can't use tables. You could just break that table into 2 different tables or 3 different tables, however many you need to. And that just helps the users that are coming in here with those accessibility tools. They can hit this heading, know this table is regarding the math section, and they can skip it if it's not related to them, rather than, say, getting stuck in this table and having to use their keyboard to click around in it to skip down to wizardry, because that's what they're interested in. But if you're not interested in using tables, you want to use something else, you could also use snippets. We often see that table style data and we want to use a table, but you can also break that up and break it into cards, break it into columns, use lists, and use icons to represent that data. And this is 100% accessible. And you'll see it kind of conveys the same data here. Just a different style of laying it out, a little more modern, and also just make sure you don't have to deal with those accessibility issues tied to tables, because they can be tricky.
The accessibility issues are also why we don't suggest using tables for layouts.
Correct.
Kirk has created column snippets and stuff like that to use for layout purposes. So please don't use the tables for layouts.
Yep. And I believe that's actually one of either the potential or likely issues. The likely and potential issues go down a level. That means kind of the code isn't 100% sure that this is an error. It can't be sure, and you need a human to come in and check it and double check and make sure that that either is or isn't an error, and if it is, addressing it. So one of the likely problems here today was just we had some suspicious text. We talk about not using click here a lot. So this will start to show up in your likely problems if you have links that say click here.
In that instance, what you could do is, instead of, are you going on there right now?
I had put some examples in here in case we had time.
Okay, I'll let you talk then.
Okay. How much time do we have? Are we good?
Oh yeah, you're perfect.
Yeah, plenty of time.
Did I go too fast?
No, you're fine.
Nope.
All right. That So yeah, this is what is identified as suspicious text in our scan. It's kind of a silly name, but that just means click here's or read more's or learn more's. If you take those out of context, the users with the assistive technology have no idea where that's going. They just read click here. So what we recommend doing is changing click here to something different, link the actual text that is the action, or use some action words like join the meeting, instead of linking click here. And we have some more examples like that in the knowledge base as well.
And Kirk,
and
correct me if I'm wrong. Kirk's definitely the design and style guy. I'm not that person, but you know, if you do have call to actions like join the meeting and stuff like that, maybe those would be good for buttons. You know,
Perfect.
they stand out a little bit more. It's a call to action, and typically you want people to do call of actions.
Yep, perfect. Let's see, what other likelies did we have here, or potentials? Let's go down another level. Text may refer to items by shape, size, or relative position alone. So what that means is I have some text on this page that is referring to something, describing something, using its size, its shape, its location, its color. These things aren't constants. A non-sighted user, obviously can't see color or shape or location. Also have to consider that when we're building these responsive pages, something that may be to the right may stack and be below later. So we just want to check over our page and make sure it's, when I say likely or potential problems, like I said, the scan isn't sure, so we need you to come in and check and make sure. And I found some. It says use the red button, use the link to the right. Don't really want to do that. Maybe instead of use the red button, you use the button's text and you say use the apply now button. Use the submit button at the bottom of the form. If you combine multiple, I believe it passes. You just can't rely on one descriptor to describe something.
Hey, Kirk, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't, you know, as part of this, we definitely learned some accessibility things ourselves.
Yeah.
Didn't you have to correct some snippets that we had previously had put out?
Yes. Yeah. So first thing we did was come in here and use these final checks, this accessibility check ourselves, and it lit up like a Christmas tree, full of errors in our templates that we had to address and things that we learned used to be okay aren't okay now. So we're constantly learning and changing our techniques too. But like Diana said, with snippets, this applies to snippets, components, the templates themselves, anything outside of the WYSIWYG, you're not responsible for. That was us. We took care of that as best as we can. But if something else comes up, do contact us and we'll address it and make sure that it is accessible for everyone, or we'll suppress that error if it's a false positive.
And I
Were
think
there
more
any
I was gonna say-
snippets that they need to modify in order to make them accessible?
No. Snippets, if you just open your page again and publish it, you're good to go. So you won't.
So just to summarize that, for any content that or tools that we give you to create content like snippets or components, etc., we have made changes to make them more accessible. However, there's nothing you all need to do. Next time you publish a page, it'll be fixed.
Yep,
now, if you
correct.
don't publish a page for a very, very long time, then you might have live content out there that is not accessible. So that might just be something you want to make sure that your pages out there are being actively updated and maintained. But other than that, there's nothing you have to do.
Yeah, exactly. And we know, some of us have a million pages out there, so we don't expect you to go check every one, but we do want to be proactive about this. And, do check your pages and refresh them occasionally. Content gets stale really quick and we forget about it a lot. The last quick thing, just wanted to show, this is a pretty common one as well that I see. Let's see what our error exactly says here. There's a lot more, and I've got all of these documented in the KB if you really want to get into it and get into fixing all of these. So this one, visual lists may not be properly marked. All visual lists contain proper markup is the fix. And what that's describing is if in the WYSIWYG editor, maybe you came in and you wanted to make a list. Rather than using this bulleted list or the numbered list, maybe you came in and said 1, 2, 3. A screen reader is going to hit that and read 1 period, end of sentence, 1, 2 period, end of sentence, moving on, rather than hitting this as a list and knowing that they can tell the user at the very beginning, hey, this is a numbered list, here are the items. Hey, this is a bulleted list, here are the items. So don't come in here and sorry, Luke.
I was just gonna say, and I think some assistive technologies, when they read actual lists like that bulleted and the numbered one, it'll say this is a list of so many items. And
Yes.
some technologies will allow users to skip over that whole section if that list doesn't pertain to them, for example. However, if you do the straight up typing out number, not using the tools provided in WYSIWYG, they don't have those options to skip or get kind of at a quick glance, so to speak. This is how many items are in the list, for example. So,
Yeah, and like I said, these translate to HTML, and this is a different block known as an unordered list, or UL, or an ordered list, OL. These are just paragraphs, so it's going to hit these, like Luke said, it's going to hit every single one as a paragraph, and not let them know, hey, this is a list of 4 items, or 3 items, sorry, in this case. And those are final checks, the accessibility final check. I know that's really intimidating. Let's make this go away.
Quick thing about those, correct me if I'm wrong, you can run these final checks without hitting the publish button, correct? They don't have to try to publish in order to see their pages.
As far as I know, it's in.
Is it not on the ... meatball?
Page check. There you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Luke,
you
you're
don't
right.
have to, yeah, you don't have to click on publish and maybe accidentally publish out changes that you weren't ready for. There is another way to get to it. It's just
Yep. Good call.
publish is where it
Show that
shows
again.
most often.
Yeah. So like Luke said, if you want to just run your page checks or final check, you can hit page check. It's under the more actions, the ... I've heard this called the meatball or the kebab icon as well now, and hit page check, and that'll bring that up in a separate window without all those publish options. So like you said, you don't accidentally publish a page that you don't want published. Briefly, I didn't comment on this, but the W3C valid one, we're not enforcing that one. We're not running that one. It's kind of unrelated to what we're working towards, and it didn't give us the tools that we needed. So you can disregard that one, as well as exceptions. The big takeaway is focusing on the known, likely, and potential problems that come up. If you need help, we have a section under OU Campus in the knowledge base called Final Checks. In there, every single error you could possibly get, how to fix them, step-by-step instructions. We also have instructions for using each of them separately.
Feel free to type any questions in the chat or raise your hand and we will unmute you. We understand that this is going to be a change for y'all. I think it will hopefully be a change in the better to make our university website more accessible for all. But we also recognize it's a change for y'all, and web development's not your primary job. So if you do need help, Kirk has the Get Help page up here. If the ITS service desk can help you, they'll route that ticket to our group, and we will make sure we help you with any of the accessibility things that y'all might run into. So don't hesitate to reach out if you get stuck trying to fix a page. We are here to help. Any questions about anything we've talked about today, or questions about or Omni CMS or the website in general?
Yeah,
Correct,
Alicia. Yep, Alicia said the main thing to get very familiar with is the known problems, correct? Yep, to start out, we really want to focus on those known problems and getting familiar with those, getting used to fixing them. And that kind of translates into when you build new pages, you know, automatically building them in a way that doesn't bring up errors. Rachel asked, will the information from the Zoom webinar become available in a document with links to the self-help pages, or will we only have this video as a reference to the common problems? I'm taking notes and trying to find links as we go along, but that would be helpful. We do have the pages in the OU campus site. We are also recording this recording so that you can come back to it anytime you need to. Those pages, I've linked them quickly under popular topics today so that they're easily accessible from the OU campus homepage if you need, or on the CMS homepage, if you need to access them quickly. The other takeaway is also that that section in the knowledge base here, final checks, has a lot of that other information. The step-by-step instructions are in the knowledge base, and the information about is in our website.
Any other questions? I don't think it would be a bad idea if you happen to have snippets on your pages to, if you're in there, just go ahead and publish it just in case it happens to be a snippet that we had to fix. It never hurts to publish a page at any point in time. So if you do have snippets, even if you aren't making other changes, it probably wouldn't hurt to just go ahead and publish the page. Michael, is it possible to provide a direct link to the appropriate? It is not.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, we
unfortunately.
cannot modify the links within Omni CMS to switch it to the KB. That
Yeah,
would
we
be
don't.
very convenient, though.
We don't have any control over this, unfortunately. Yeah, which is why I made sure that each KB article is titled exactly the same as this. So if you can copy paste that out into the KB, it should be there. But yeah, unfortunately, we don't have any control over this.
I believe what we're doing right now is we're going to enable the publish or the final checks for every publish. So now you will start to see those actually run every time. But we're not going to enforce the known problems for accessibility until probably later this year. We're thinking more like fall, sometime to force that that to be fixed before a page is published. So it's giving you the rest of spring and summer to kind of look through your site and get that stuff fixed before we force the corrections on publish.
Yeah, these are all live. All these changes are live right now. So if you go to one of your pages, you might see some quality control checks. And if you go to publish any of your pages, these are going to automatically run now. But again, they will not prevent publish. You'll notice that's grayed out. It's just because links is still running. If you have a page with a bunch of links, you might have to be a little patient because it's going to be going through every single one of those links. And it might take a minute to get your publish button to appear. But don't fret, it will. Ashley asked, we have lots of issues showing ID attribute not unique. Will you email me that and I'll look into that? Email me the page.
Yeah, that might
that
be
you're
an
getting
issue with
the
one of
error
our
on.
snippets. It might be a snippet that we've forgot to take into account. It might be added to the page multiple times or something like that. So
custom code is potentially going to throw some unexpected errors that we don't have documented as well.
Any other questions?
Email Webmaster if you.
Wait.
Oh, sorry.
Actually, let's not email Webmaster. Contact ITS Service Desk and they'll get a ticket created, and then it'll be routed to us if they can't answer the question. Yeah,
please do that. If you don't want to call the help desk, if you visit ITS/contact. Oops, I didn't make that a real link. I made this page for you. If you visit this page, the Service Desk contact page, and you go to Service Catalog, visit our service catalog. I believe it's under WKU Systems, OU Campus, report an OU Campus issue. I think this is also linked in our help sites as well. This will just take you to a form that instead of calling the help desk, it'll just submit a form.
You can also chat in too if you don't want to, if you want a fairly instantaneous answer.
I'll put these in chat for anyone who wants them real quick. Along those lines too, I'll go back and check our OU campus site, and I'll add any links to the knowledge base or specific articles in here and try to make those more accessible as well, since they're kind of disconnected.
This is all we have to cover. So if you don't have any questions, you're welcome to drop off. However, we will keep the meeting up and going for a bit longer in case there are more questions.
Yeah, and I'm, any questions not specifically accessibility or page check related, we're happy to address too while everyone's here. Or if you want to see an example. Guess that about wraps everything up. I see people kind of dropping off here. And if you're okay ending early, I don't think anyone has. Oh, Ashley asked, did you say the anticipated date of when everything will have to be updated? Later this year, probably, Diana, is that right?
Yeah, we're thinking sometime fall. And again, it doesn't have to be updated by that point in time. When you publish a page out, that will be that's when it will stop you from publishing a page until the major problems of accessibility are checked are fixed. But that's the only holdup you will have. Links and spelling will not hold you up. But yeah, we're targeting fall. We want to see kind of how this rollout goes and give people plenty of time to get their stuff fixed first before we make it a forced.
Yeah, and any feedback on it, anything we can do to help make fixing these errors easier on you, let us know.
All right, I say we go ahead and stop the recording and end the meeting. And for anyone who's still here, if you do have any questions, feel free to contact ITS Service Desk. And if they can't answer your questions, then it will come to us and we will get those answered for you ASAP. Thanks, y'all.